super excited to get into this. To give an introduction, my name is Alan Cruz. I am the founder of Poderoso Media, a content marketing, media, and storytelling company that helps founders, mission-driven brands, and companies become visible and amplify their impact. And so, the purpose of this presentation is to help anyone, whether you are a mission-driven founder, you are a company, you are an individual who wants to build a personal brand, in creating systems and harnessing the power of storytelling to be able to do it in a consistent, authentic way that resonates with you. And so throughout this presentation, please feel free at any point to utilize the chat for any questions, any insights, any interactions at all. I'm happy to stop for engagement and also take quick pauses. This presentation is not overloaded with 20 million slides. It is just a couple intentional slides, but please, at any point for any questions, anything you want to chime in, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and I would love to hear your thoughts. And so in the next 25 minutes, what we are going to go through is essentially helping you in your mission, in your company, or what you do and the people that you serve become amplified and visible. And so it's with systems and for storytelling, and I'm super excited to get into it. I called this workshop the Mariposa effect because kind of like a butterfly, instead of just fluttering your wings, it's to help you spread your message, spread what you are doing, and spread your impact that builds trust, that moves people, and make sure that your work is impossible to ignore. Feel free at any point during the chat, like I said, if you have any questions to chime in, but let's get started. Let me go a little bit back. So before I dive in, I do want to give a note of transparency. I don't have the questions to everything, but I'm going to give you everything that I have. If at any point during this presentation you have a question that I am unable to answer on the spot, I will follow up with you personally. Or if I still don't have the answer, I might not be the right person to answer it. I will steer you in that direction to that person or to that resource. So just want to let you know, I want to give you the most value, the most resource out of this presentation because your mission, whether you are a founder, you're an individual, you work for a nonprofit or a company or brand, it matters. And I want to help you be able to tell it better. You'll also notice that throughout the slides, there will be some QR codes. So at any point, if you are interested in wanting to follow up with me, if you want to speak with me, please feel free to scan that QR code with your phone. If you are on your phone listening in, I will also drop a link to a link tree where it'll have the resources and everything that we'll go over in this presentation, including a copy of this presentation, which I will share at the end, towards the end. So I just wanted to let that note in. And so just before we go on, I just want to do a quick one-word check-in with people who are here. I'm curious to see, for all of you who are attending and joining right now, what is one word that's describing how you're showing up right now? There's no wrong answers, whether you're feeling fired up, if you feel foggy, excited, exhausted. This is just a way to gauge the room and just let you know that this is a space where you can just be where you are. And it helps me meet you where you are at. I see Katie saying ready. Naleli, intrigued. I hope I said your name right, Naleli. Intrigued. I'm super excited. Yeah, there's going to be some great information. And like I said, if you have any questions, any input, feel free to chime in. But I have this check-in because I know that we don't always get permission to check in with ourselves before we do work or before whatever we do. So I just want to make sure that we can take the time, even though in this 25, 30-minute workshop helps me get a glimpse of where you're all showing up from, and just allowing you all to take a breath and let's get through this together. So first, storytelling doesn't just inspire, it also converts. And so I emphasize this because I think oftentimes you might think of storytelling as someone obviously telling their story, and in the positioning of a company, a brand, a nonprofit, etc., you might just think, oh, it's just someone telling their story and it's just all feeling. But I think people often forget, and the clients that I've worked with, even right now, forget that storytelling is a powerful tool, especially used in an authentic and resonating way, depending on who you serve, is incredibly powerful to get people to join your mission, what you do, and also, depending on your goal, have them act on that. So I want to go through this brief little case study that I pulled. There are two emails side by side, one on the left and one on the right, and I'm actually going to go through reading them. So I'm actually going to zoom in for a second. By the way, you might see my entire screen. When you do, just know that I'm just zooming in and out, and I might have to adjust my screen. So you might see my speaker notes, but I'm human, and I do have some bullet points to help make sure that I stay on track. So I just want to let you all know that. But storytelling in action. So this campaign that I'm going to highlight was actually done by a PR firm called Brad Cecil's and Associates, and they did an A/B test campaign. And for those of you who might not know what is an A/B test, it's pretty much just an experimentation method where you have two versions of something. In this case, it's two versions of an email, left and right, and you pretty much compare to see which one performs better. So the email on the left here is a general email sent by the Rhode Island Food Bank. They had a hunger campaign for their summer campaign to raise donations to help families during the summer for food and groceries. So this is more of a short one, data focused, straight to the point. And then the one on the right is that same email, but it actually interweaves a story of a client that the Rhode Island Food Bank helped out. And I just want to use this as a way to let you know the power of storytelling. And I do want to give credit. I actually reached out to the firm and wanted to give credit that this campaign was led by senior copywriter Lori Sahab, senior account manager Tim Ensminger, and the director of digital strategy Bryce Johnson at Brad Cecil and Associates, because they did a phenomenal job. So with that in mind, let's actually jump in and read a little bit of the email where I have it highlighted. So this first one, starting now, a generous group of contributors will match your gift up to $50,000 to help end summer hunger for neighbors across Rhode Island. Will you make a gift to our End Hunger Matching Gift Challenge today that will double to help families across our communities? Your support is especially critical right now as the need for food has increased 20% following the end pandemic era SNAP benefits earlier this year. Please give today when your generosity will go twice as far. So like I mentioned earlier, this is more of the data focused, straight to the point, short email. Maybe some of you, if you have a brand, if you work with a nonprofit or a company, you might see this as a very generic one. Maybe you've sent one similar yourself. And so with that in mind, let's actually head over to the next email. Let me scooch on over here. It's gonna look a little wonky and weird. Bear with me. I have to fix the screening. So the right one. So I'm gonna read from the top right here. So starting now, a generous group of contributors will match your gift up to $50,000 to help end summer hunger for neighbors across Rhode Island, just like Kimberly and her family. Kimberly works hard as a chiropractic assistant, but doesn't earn enough to keep up with all the bills and buy her kids, ages 9, 15, and 19, the food that they need to grow, learn, and thrive. During the school year, Kimberly's younger kids participate in their schools' free meal programs, but like thousands of Rhode Island parents, Kimberly must make up for those meals during the long summer break on a budget already stretched critically thin by the high cost of living. Will you make a gift to our End Hunger Matching Gift Challenge today that will double to help families like Kimberly's? And then pretty much the last paragraph is the same one that you saw from the one on the left. So the same ending conclusion. Let me just fix my screen real quick, guys. 1 second. And I present to you this campaign specifically because the data had shown when they had done these two emails testing, they found out that the email on the left, so the standard generic email, was actually opened more than the one on the right. So more people actually opened up this email. However, what they found was that more people donated when they opened the email on the right. So the one on the left had fewer donations. And despite the fact that more people actually opened it and read through it, and the one on the right, despite the fact that not as many people actually opened it, donated more. To be more specific, the Rhode Island Food Bank, with the email on the right using the story, saw an increase of 109% in donations. 109%. And I emphasize that because we're talking about the fact that people, individuals, depending on who you serve, didn't just read more in this right email, they actually gave more. Why? Because cold statistics and facts don't stick with people, stories do. And the difference between statistics and story is one that will make you feel, but it's even better if you can marry statistics and data and story together, because then you get this beautiful Mary Love child, which the Rhode Island Food Bank saw as an increase in the donations, which was one of their goals. And maybe for yourself, if you are a founder, if you work with a nonprofit, a mission-driven brand or company, and you might be in this boat of maybe you've tried generic emails, maybe you've tried just sending facts, making posts or content, whether it's email, on your website, on your blogs and articles, just throwing out data, but you wonder why isn't it sticking? This might actually be a great nudge to rethink that. And so I want to take a quick pause because I know I threw a lot at you with this one case study. And I'm curious to hear for those of you who are in the chat, after hearing this, is there any part of your brand or your work where you can maybe swap facts and statistics for more moments of real storytelling? Feel free to drop it in the chat if it clicks or if this resonates at all. But I just wanted to showcase that in the power of storytelling. Next one. Ooh, let me fix my screen, y'all. 1 second. I'm not perfect. So, all right, beautiful. So this next one. So let's talk about burnout. So I'm sure that many of you, regardless of the line of work that you're in, whether you are a founder, you work with a mission-driven organization, you work with a brand, at some point you have experienced burnout. And I know I have. And actually, a data report done by the Center for Effective Philanthropy released a report stating that 95% of mission-driven leaders cite burnout as a critical challenge. So this might be you if you are juggling a million different things, if you wear more than one hat, and you're trying to explain what you do, the impact that you're making with the work that you do, but you feel like nobody's really getting it. And so I do want to highlight that even for me, the reason why I even made this workshop was because of my own personal experience with burnout. Last year, I went through a life-changing event where I almost lost my eyesight in both of my eyes. And the technical medical term is called double retina detachment. And a lot of people ask me, well, why did that happen? A number of reasons. Number one, it's genetic and it just predisposed for me, but I also reason burnout because I was working and building something, to impact people where I gave myself little to no breaks. I was scattered all over the place and was trying to figure it out. And that ultimately led me to, at one point, I lost some vision in my left eye. And last year went through 4 eye surgeries in a span of 6 months. And it was just an incredibly overwhelming situation. It's to kind of paint a picture. It's almost like when you're driving a car at night at full speed with no headlights on, and you're hoping not to crash. That's exactly what it felt like for me. And I share that because for this workshop and what we're about to go into right now is to help you to create some systems that will enable you to prevent burnout or to find a framework that works for you, whether it's for your own organization, your company, or even your own personal branding. Finding a way that is consistent, is authentic with you, and works for you instead of trying to be scattered, overwhelmed, and eventually leading to burnout. So I built this scale with story 5-step system based on the work that I've done with my clients. And so simply the 5 steps are clarifying your core story, mapping your audience's emotional journey, creating content pillars, building a lightweight content system, and leading with connection, not perfection. And so in this workshop, we're only going to have time to go through the first 3, which I bolded, but these first 3 are actually the foundation and what I want to give you in order to be able to have a framework for your own content system. Or if you're struggling with finding clarity in your messaging or why your messaging when you post any kind of content is not resonating with who you're serving or your audience, this might be a great way to be able to rethink that and have a framework to help you figure that out. So with that in mind, I'm actually curious to hear if you want to drop in the chat, based on these 5 that you see right here, which step do you think is your biggest gap right now? Or if you work for a company or a nonprofit or for someone else, can you identify maybe out of these 5 steps, what might be the ones that you're falling short on? Feel free to just send a number right there in the chat. And so with that in mind, we're going to go on to step number 1, which is clarifying your core story. So this is a three-part core narrative. It is the problem, the transformation, and the hero. So number one, let's start with is the problem. So the problem is, what challenge is your audience facing? What is the daily friction that they feel in their daily life? So what is the issue or problem that the person or the people that you are serving facing? And this is important to note because focusing on the problem is where we can lead into transformation, which is where a lot of the magic happens, which is next. So, number two in this three-part framework is the transformation. So, what changes for the person that you are serving in your audience when they get your help or they join your cause? So, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're a company, but you're also mission driven, so you care about profits and purpose, what do they get out of it when they get your help or when they engage with you? And I'm not talking about just functionally, but also emotionally. What is the emotions that they also feel? Do they feel heard? Do they feel empowered? Do they feel less alone? Do they feel safe and secure? These are very important to have also. What is the emotion that they feel? Because that's exactly what you want to pinpoint and hit on in your messaging, in your content, regardless if you're a nonprofit, a company, a solo founder, or even just an individual. And then finally, the hero. So I think this is one where a lot of people get it mixed up. I have gotten this mixed up as well in my own work that I've created in the past few years. But when we think of the hero, I think many of you might think, oh, it's me. I'm the hero. I'm the one that's providing the solution. I'm helping out this specific audience. I'm helping out these people. But the truth is, the hero is not actually you. It is the person that you serve. And by hero, I mean, who are the people that you are centering in the work that you are doing, that you are trying to reach? It is your audience. It's who you're serving. And so heroes are your audience or your customer, or however you want to define the term. You are simply the guide who lights the path for them. Again, they have a problem. You are the transformation, and you're helping the hero go through that transformation, and you're guiding them through that process. And so when your audience sees themselves in your story, they trust you, they will follow you, and they believe that you can help them. And so we're actually going to go through an example in a couple of slides with a case study with a client that I worked with. But again, I want to take a quick pause. If anyone has any questions at all, just based on the slides that we've been going through, or on this slide specifically, please feel free to drop it in the chat. But I also would love to hear from all of you. If you would love to drop in the chat, is what is the pain that your audience feels, but they don't always say it out loud? Feel free to just drop one word in the chat. And again, this could be if you're a nonprofit, if you're a company, if you're just an individual that you want to help out someone or a specific audience. Feel free to drop in what is the pain that, or the problem that they are facing that you are trying to help solve. So with that in mind, we are going to move on to the second part of the framework, which is never wondering what to post again. And I feel like this is where a lot of people are like, this is what I need. I know at one point I was also in that same boat of trying to figure out, what am I going to post about? What am I going to talk about? So now that we've talked about the problem, transformation, and the hero with your story, and giving you some kind of tidbit and realizing this is who I'm serving, this is the problem that I'm solving, this is the transformation that I'm giving them. Now we're going to move on to what I call content pillars, or you can also call them core themes. And so this is pretty much just a very lightweight content system that can help you stay consistent without draining you, burning you out. Or if you've been that person, I know I have, with being up like at 1 a.m. and trying to figure out what am I going to make a post about this week to convey my messaging, communicate what I'm doing and the impact that I'm making, this is a great start. So instead of trying to wing it every single week, what I like to do with the folks that I work with, and the people who I often talk to when they try to figure out what do I post about, I usually turn to these content pillars. And we're going to go through a few examples of what I mean by these content pillars and these themes. So number one is origin story. So this is pretty much the personal why behind your mission. Why do you do what you do? What is the purpose of your organization, your company, you as an individual if you're building a brand? What is your why? What is your personal story? And that is also your distinction. It's what makes you unique because there's only one of you, and there may be a million other people, for example, doing empowering people, empowering entrepreneurs, right? Which is in a sense kind of what I do with my content marketing and media company. But it's also, my story is unique in itself that there's no one else that has gone through what I've gone through and why I'm doing this work. So some ideas of like how can this look like in content form can be blog article essays from your founders or yourself. It can be videos if you do TikTok, if you do Instagram, explaining your why. It can also be uploading that on your website, whether it's on your company page or your personal website, being able to express that and talk about that more. The second one is behind the scenes. So this is more of showing the raw process, the real day-to-day of what goes on in your company or your organization. And the reason why I mentioned this too is because it's important that the people that you're serving, that they can connect with you on a human level, that they're not just engaging with an entity, like they're not just engaging with Poderoso Media as an example. They're engaging with, and they can see that there's a real person, Alan, me, behind the scenes showing what we do, how we make this impact, and the real struggles in being vulnerable. So it's a great way to show vulnerability and to be real and make that connection with your audience. And some content pieces that you can think of is doing LinkedIn posts. I mean, I've seen many where people will show their day to day or week to week in post format. You can also do, which I'm sure many of you have seen on TikTok and Instagram, a day in the life, behind the scenes, BTS, and just tailor it towards your brand or your company in a way to create an authentic human connection with your audience. Number three is client wins and success stories. So this is real life impact with transformations. And I love these ones because we're talking about the kind of content is case studies. Case studies, I'm a big advocate for case studies, testimonials, video testimonials, and more. So it's social proof from people that you have impacted who you are serving. And that's them telling their own story in their words of what you've done to help them. What is again, going back to the previous slide, they had a problem. This is the transformation. And so with these client success stories and studies, case studies or testimonials, it's them telling them this is what you did for them. And it's a powerful way because it's not just you as an organization or company saying, hey, this is what we do, X, Y, and Z, but there are actual real life people who can attest to it, which makes it even more powerful and creates trust and a connection. Number four is value-driven education. So this is, you can think of educational information, anything that's informative. So if you've gone on Google before searching up how to post on Instagram. That's just an example, but you'll see that there are a bunch of articles that come up about how to do this, how to post on Instagram with this tool, or how to post on Instagram with 5 videos, as an example. These are great to educate and inform your audience. So related to whatever service or problem that you are helping to solve, any kind of information to build trust and to let them know that you are a resource, to go to for this problem. And so I love these. So these can look like blog articles. These can look like posts, like whether, depending on what, it doesn't matter what social media platform, if you do LinkedIn, Facebook, you can do video through Instagram, TikTok, things like that, but offering value that will help the person solve the problem that they are facing. Number 5 is thought leadership. I think this is one that not many people think about explicitly, but when I've worked with different founders and entrepreneurs, especially solo entrepreneurs who are building up their brands, one of the ways that we help build their authority, especially if they want to get speaking engagements, they want to get booked for workshops, is building their thought leadership. So having their specific perspective on conversations going on in their industry. This can be your company posting about it. It can be your founder or your executive team, or even you as an individual, if you are working in a company or nonprofit, or if you're just your own person, putting in your perspective on issues, on trends, and things that are going on in the industry that you are in. And so this can look like, I think LinkedIn is a great one, especially if you're connected with peers in your industry. This is a great one. I highly recommend LinkedIn, but again, any social media platform can work, and it just depends on what your goals are. And then number 6 is community highlights. So this is spotlighting your partners, your collaborators, And this is, in a sense, people who are your donors, your volunteers. And I love this because it's a way to show appreciation for the people who are collaborating with you, who have served with you, who are helping you, supporting you. So this can look like blogs, articles, social media posts, or even on your website for your company or organization, having a dedicated page or even sub page where you can thank people, publicly right there. And I think showing appreciation really does go a long way. And so these are just some examples, and your job pretty much is to pick 3 to 5 of these. There are way more than these, but this is a good starter of picking 3 to 5 and or creating your own that can fit your brand's soul and their narrative that feels right, that you can keep up regularly, that feels authentic to you, but also resonates with who you are serving. And then feel free to drop in the chat before I move on to the next one. If there's a content pillar here that sticks out to you, that you resonate with, that you might want to give a try to help build that trust and connection with your audience. I know I went over at least 6 of them. So I hope that this can be a good framework to use on how to start with building a system to post content and to really reach the people that you are serving and looking to impact. Alrighty, and then so now we're going to jump into a case study. Just give you a real life example. This is Siobhan. She is the founder of Springdale Child Advocacy and Education. And what she does with her business, so this is a mission-driven business, and what she does is essentially she helps moms with kids with special ed secure accommodations for their kids in public schools. So anything with IEP, 504 plans, and because it's an overwhelming, difficult process. And so when I first met Siobhan a few months ago, she was nearly done. She was ready to quit her business because she found that she felt like she wasn't reaching anyone or the person that she wanted to help out, which were parents and moms with kids with special ed, with special needs. And she was just very, very close to essentially on the brink of burnout and just wanting to quit altogether, which for me, it was really sad in a way where, because I recognized that she was doing such important work, helping out parents navigate a complex system to get their children the accommodations that they need is something that is vastly needed that I've been learning after working with Siobhan. Prior to this, I had no idea about the process of how to get accommodations for your kids if they had special needs or any kind of disability. And so what we did to help clarify and amplify her impact with the life-changing services that she offered is we clarified her core story. So that pretty much meant clarifying why does she do the work that she does, who is she serving, and what is the transformation. And so when we built out those 3 content pillars related to that core story, and for reference here on the slide, the 3 content pillars that we built out were focused on parent wins, so client success stories and testimonials, advocacy tools. We built out a blog for her because she didn't have one before that has every single month long, in-depth information on anything regarding IEPs and requesting accommodations in schools, and then integrating her personal voice and her values. So in her website rebrand, we pretty much put in her personal story, her values, her voice, and everything in that to make it more personal, like a human being. And I think that's something that she was struggling with because she wanted to sound unique, like her, not like, because there are thousands of other education advocates that exist. And in a sea of all of those different websites and people that do the same work, she wanted to differentiate herself. So we did that through her website. And in fact, as a result of working with her and strategizing and clarifying different parts of her business and her marketing, she doubled her consultation bookings within 30 days of relaunching her rebranded website. And the reason why is because parents finally saw the actual story behind her work. Because Siobhan is also a mother who has a child with special needs. Siobhan has worked in the public education system for more than 30 years. And that was something that wasn't really reflected in her website, in her personal why. Why does this matter? Because when someone clicks on your website or any piece of content, the question is always, why should I care? Why does it matter? And so we were able to amplify that and make sure that the moms who were looking for help in navigating public education system for accommodations, we're able to see that. And so the biggest win from this is that she stayed in the game. Her business is still continuing. She is getting more bookings. She is actually providing life-changing services to the people that she is serving. And if you want to learn more about Siobhan and the impact that was made after working with myself and Poderoso Media, you can feel free to please scan the QR code. It will go to a link tree, and we have our case study linked at one of the bottom buttons. I can't remember which button exactly, but if you want to read more in depth about her case study and the transformation after working with her, please feel free to do so. Just scan the QR code right here. But yeah, it was such a beautiful partnership with her. And I'm excited in learning that this is something that many mission-driven founders and organizations need. And I'm excited to continue to provide that. And Siobhan is just one of many stories where transformation is possible, even on the brink of burnout, of wanting to quit, of not knowing what am I going to do to reach the people that I want to serve. I hope that this can be proof that transformation is also possible for you as well. And so, with that in mind, we are nearing the end of the workshop, and I wanted to drop in some amazing resources that I had created. So, based on what we went over today, I created a few frameworks in Google Docs for you. If you, again, whether you are an individual, if you are a founder, you work for a nonprofit or a mission driven company, I created some frameworks that can help you with figuring out what are the systems that I can put in place to really tell the story of what we do in a real authentic way that resonate with my audience. And so now that we've gone over the few slides and clarifying your core story, uncovering some content pillars, and seeing that with this kind of approach, there is a way to make it your own where you can help keep the momentum rolling and gaining traction in the work that you do, because you shouldn't feel like you're shouting into a void. You should feel like you're making an impact. So if you scan the QR code, it will take you to the same link tree that was linked in the previous slide, and you can have access to the Google Docs. And I'll actually drop the link tree in the chat in case you're on your phone or you can't scan it for some reason. I just dropped the link tree in the chat, but it actually has the information on being able to copy and paste and use these fillable templates. So feel free to use it because this is for you to be able to clarify your story in whatever way that it serves you. And also, if you would love to chat with me regarding your nonprofit, your company, or your personal branding, anything content marketing, please feel free to just schedule a chat with me. I like to call them energy exchanges. I'm just here to be a resource to be able to help you out. There's no selling, no pitching from my end. I just want to be able to give you any of the resource, any kind of direction to help you with the work that you are doing with your organization, your company, your brand, or if you're just an individual starting out and you want to figure out a way, what can I do to make an impact? And you have an idea. So feel free to scan that QR code. And with that in mind, I wanted to also just open up the floor for anyone who has any questions. I'm very grateful for all of you for taking the time to attend this workshop, and I hope that all of the resources that are in the link tree can be of service to you in whatever way possible. And so I wanted to just bring the floor open. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or I believe you might be able to unmute yourself as well. So I just want to give that a little pause and invitation if you have any questions or any insights that came up for you. But other than that, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me, send me an email, scan the QR code in any way that I can be of service to you in your mission and the work that you are doing.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much, Alan, for the wonderful presentation. I learned a lot too. I have a marketing background, so I think some of the points that Alan made are really impressive and insightful. One of the things that I want to ask Alan about to clarify is about storytelling and utilizing your story, but also combining statistics as well, not just the story itself. Is that more helpful versus just the story itself, or if you can combine both the story and statistics, would that provide a more insightful, compelling call to action?
Yeah, you know what? I talking about from my experience, I think that both ways are equally impactful. I think
Yeah.
it also just depends on what is the end goal and objective that you're trying to make. So if whether it's an email campaign, which was the case study we went through in the beginning, or if you're
Mhm.
making a website, blog article, what is your objective and goal? And usually I use that as my compass when I
Mhm.
create any kind of content with
Yeah.
then figuring out, okay, cool, should I include a story and statistics, or would it make more sense to just have a story because that will be
Right.
the most impactful for my goal and objective? So I
Right.
think it's on a case by case basis, and it's always something where I just think about, but I'm always the one that errs on the side of if you have any data that can be mingled in with your story,
Yeah.
always add it in. I think it adds for credibility and always also making sure that you use primary sources. So wherever you get data from, make
Yeah.
sure it's from the company or website that originally published it and to give proper credit if you
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Appreciate your question. Thank you, Mario.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question, please? We have at least another 5, 6, 7 minutes left. Alan, I'm gonna ask one more question as well. I mentioned in the chat that it was a great point when you had one of the bullet points that says lead with connect, not with perfection. Expand on that, please.
Yeah, so leading with connection, not perfection, is something that I personally have learned in the last few years of
Yeah.
doing anything with, content marketing, storytelling. But I think overall, as human beings,
Mhm.
whether you are an organization or a company, I've come to learn that people, whether they are your audience, your customers, your collaborators, your employees, or even yourself, we trust more when we feel connection, not perfection.
Yeah.
I think we all recognize that no one is perfect. Not one organization or company is perfect. And I
Right.
think a lot of people, a lot of organizations, even myself, we get paralyzed by making something so perfect, right?
Yeah.
That we forget that we lose the authenticity and what actually
Correct.
drives us in our mission and our personal why. We
Yeah.
lose that. And people in your audience, they can feel that, they can
Yeah.
sense that. And so I
Yeah.
always tell, I have to remind myself as well that it's important to lead with connection. So with being authentic, with
Right.
being okay with progress and not having to make this one email or this one blog article super perfect, because
Exactly.
ultimately the purpose is to be of service and to help those that you are impacting, right? It's not
Right.
for perfection, it's to help them in some way. And so I always say lead with that because that is also where trust is strengthened and where
Yeah.
trust is built. It's not through perfection, it's always through genuine connection.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah. Or we could just chat.
Yeah, chat as well. Yeah, whatever.
I'm chilling.
I actually have, let me see. I think I have one more question for you. I just, oh yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if you touched on this because I had to step away briefly for a second. How is AI impacting advertising and storytelling, and how can you
Mhm.
balance it? Because there's a lot of what they call like AI slop. People utilizing too many, everything's starting to look kind of similar. So how can
Yeah.
you use it and balance it so you have a human touch and authentic versus just kind of looking like AI slop?
You know what? That's such a good question because that's something that I'm still like also like trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, I think with AI, especially in the last few years, with I mean ChatGPT, and we have a lot of different software that exists now that
Yeah.
you pretty much if you want to create something or a post, you can just kind of just throw it in to ChatGPT and it'll spit
Yeah.
something out. And I think I'm now learning for myself at least is that before I even go to an AI tool, I
Yeah.
always will just I call it brain dumping. It's
Right.
basically where if I have an idea for a website, a blog article, or whatever I'm doing. For example, right now I'm working with a venture capital fund to create a 3-month course for their founders. And so
Yeah.
before even using AI to build that entire course out that we're building right now, I just sat with myself and did what I call a brain dump. So
Yeah.
literally, I with my computer, with my pen and notebook and my journal, I just write out every single idea, every single thing about this topic
Without a doubt.
without AI, without I'll also do research, right? I'll pull
Mhm.
research in, but I call it like a monster brain dump. Like you just
Right.
throw everything in one page. And
Yeah.
then what I love to do is use AI to actually help me organize it. I give it
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, I give it, this is my objective that I came up with. Now,
Exactly.
can you help me organize it? And I also love to use it to challenge me too. I
Yeah.
ask it, hey, where am I falling short, or where
Right.
am I mentioning irrelevant things that don't need to be in here that take away from the
Right.
main point and objective? So I
Yeah.
love to use it to help be an edit buddy, to challenge me and give me some suggestions, but ultimately making sure that it's still my voice. But it's something
Yeah.
that I'm also navigating with current clients right now, with helping them
Yeah.
find their authentic voice, because a lot of companies, individuals, and brands are all starting to sound the same. And so
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
another thing too that we're dealing with, making sure that we can be authentic and unique using our own voice that we create for ourselves.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more there. And I think that's exactly what everybody's dealing with throughout this conference is really how to utilize the AI tools and still be authentic throughout the process. Because I think that there's a lot of people who depend on it a little too much. And maybe
Mhm.
like you say, their brand is starting to kind of lose face and not be
Yeah,
as unique. And I think that's where you really have to, like you said, use the dump it into chat GPT or whatever, let it organize it, but you still have to adjust it. You still have to know quality content, your message, your story, your narrative, all that good information. Because if you don't know that, then you're going to have a story or marketing that doesn't look unique and authentic. So I think that's really the key there is knowing how to utilize it so it doesn't, yeah, lose its essence.
exactly, exactly. And I know that we have like just a few more minutes left till the session ends, but I want to say, Evelyn, Katie, Natalia, and Sundar, thank you for joining this workshop. Whether you're listening or you might be juggling something else, I appreciate your presence. I also dropped in the chat a survey link. Would appreciate for those of you who are here to fill out the survey link just to give me some feedback. This is my first presentation on
Hey.
content marketing and storytelling. So I know there's always ways to improve. So if you have just less than 60 seconds to spare, I dropped it in the chat right here, a type form. It's completely anonymous, so you won't need to put your information, but I do have a question at the end where if you want to put in your information so I can follow up with you for more feedback, it's optional. But if you have 60 seconds to spare, I would greatly appreciate it. But again, Mario, Evelyn, Katie, Natalia, Sundar, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Everybody, that's the wraps everything up here. So we want to give Alan another round of applause. Alan, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. We have another presentation at 1 o'clock. So if you guys want to tune back in with us, then we'll see you then. Alan, thank you so much. Thank you to our
Thank
guests.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone. Have a great day.